Hello, Cornerstone friends. This is Mr. Matt from Classroom 6 coming to you from Classroom 6. That's why I have my mask on to prevent the spread of COVID 19. Okay, today we are talking about June's second interview. This is June Lee again, who had a not so great interview with Ned Bloom for Ned Bloom's painting company, and he probably didn't get that job. But now he is interviewing with Mr. Ellis, who is the HR director over at Seacoast Industries. And if you remember correctly, June filled out an application for Seacoast Industries, which packages fish. All right, it's a fish packing company. I once had my first job was actually at a fish packing company, and I used to do that. I used to package fish. I used to cut fish up, skin fish, put salt on them. I did all kinds of things in that company. Stapled together boxes with an industrial stapler, packed ice, packed fish and ice. There's lots of things to do in a fish packing plant. Okay, so June wants to work in one. Wants to work for Seacoast Industries. So this is his second interview with Mr. Ellis. Okay, so let's see what happens here. Okay, Mr. Ellis says, "Hello, Mr. Lee. I'm Mr. Ellis. Please have a seat." June says, "Thank you. Your application says that you worked as a machine operator in a bicycle factory. Tell me about that." Okay. June says, "Well, that was in Korea. I worked there for 5 years. I learned to operate every machine in the factory." And Mr. Ellis says, "Did you repair the machines when they broke?" And then June says, "No, not really. We had a mechanic for that." And Mr. Ellis says, "Have you ever worked at night before?" And June says, "Yes, I used to work at night in Korea sometimes." And Mr. Ellis says, "What did you like about the factory work?" June says, "Whoops, I liked being busy. There was a lot to do." That's a very good answer, June. Very good answer. "What didn't you like about that job?" "Well, I hated it when the machines broke down. We couldn't get anything done." That's an even better answer. Yes, indeed. June Lee sure knows how to answer interview questions when he's on his game. Okay, let's see. Hmm. Why did you leave your job at Chang Industries? "The factory closed," says June. Okay, so that's what we've got so far for our interview with June Lee and Mr. Ellis at Seacoast Industries. So now we're going to pick the right picture to complete each question. Number one, Mr. Ellis asked June about his job in the United States, his job in Korea. Which job did Mr. Ellis ask June about? You said his job in Korea. You are correct. Right? Just check that box. Alrighty. See, that's the Korean flag for South Korea. That's the flag. This is a map of the United States. This is our flag, the United States. All right, number two. Let's see what else we remember from this interview we just read through. Mr. Ellis asked June about his bicycle factory job, if he had a wife and children. One thing that interviewers are not supposed to do, people who are interviewing you, is they're not supposed to ask you personal questions like how old you are or if you have a wife and kids. If for some reason they start asking you questions like that, you can just politely say, "I'd rather not talk about that. Can we change the subject?" You know. Okay, so Mr. Ellis asked June. He didn't ask him about his wife and kids because that would have been wrong. He asked him about his bicycle factory job. Okay, alrighty. So we put an X on that one. Okay, let's go down to question 3. Mr. Ellis asked June if he was good with computers, if he repaired machines. Which one did he ask June? If you said if he repaired machines, you are correct. And if you also further remember, June said, no, we had someone who repaired machines. We have a mechanic for that. Okay, number 4. Mr. Ellis asked June, 1 second. Mr. Ellis asked June why he left the bicycle factory job, why he left Korea. Okay, again, hold on a second, my computer's acting weird. Again, asking somebody, like asking June why he left another country to come to the United States, that would be a personal question that the interviewer does not have the right to ask. Okay? So, he asked June why he left the bicycle factory. Okay. Number 5. Mr. Ellis asked June how much money he wanted, if he ever worked at night before. You said if he ever worked at night before, you remember correctly. Alright? Alright, very good. Now we shall move on to the next part. Okay, once again, we're back to the interview. Read or listen to the conversation between June Lee and Mr. Ellis. Do you have any questions for me? Says Mr. Ellis. June says, yes, I do. The hours are 4 in the afternoon to midnight. Is that right? Mr. Ellis says, that's right. Can you work those hours? And then June says, oh, yes, I'm looking for night work. What's the pay? The pay is $640 a week, says Mr. Ellis. And June says, that's fine. Do the benefits include a family health plan? And Mr. Ellis says, yes, we have an excellent health plan. And then June says, I really like the job. And then Mr. Ellis says, good. And I have one final question for you. Could you start Monday at 4 o'clock? And then June, who is very happy at this point, says, I sure could. Thank you. All right. Good interview. Very positive outcome. All right. Let's check our comprehension for this second part of the interview. Pick the right picture to complete each question or sentence. Rather. June asked Mr. Ellis about the hours of the job, the co-workers on the job. What did he ask Mr. Ellis about? You said the hours on the job. You are correct. He asked about the hours. Number 2. June asked Mr. Ellis about working a day shift, working a night shift. What did he ask Mr. Ellis about? Did he ask about working in the day or working in the night? He said 4 p.m. to 12 a.m. So that would be working a night shift. On the night shift. Okay. Number 3. June asked Mr. Ellis about a family health plan, A retirement plan? Which one did he ask Mr. Ellis about? He asked Mr. Ellis about, hold on, a family health plan. All right. A health plan, you know, when you, it's good to have health insurance in case you get sick or hurt. Okay, when you have a health plan, they give you a card which you keep in your wallet, and it looks something like this. Okay, it'll say, well, mine says Blue Cross Blue Shield. That's a good one. It'll have your name on it, like this one has my name on it. Okay, you give that to the doctor when you go to the doctor, and so that you won't have to pay an incredible amount of money to get medical attention. That's what insurance is for, so you don't have to pay an astronomical amount of money. The insurance helps you pay for it. By extension, work helps you pay for it. If you're lucky enough to get a job that has health benefits. Okay. Oops. Question number 4. June asked Mr. Ellis about how much the job pays, how many sick days he gets. What did he ask Mr. Ellis about? You know, and it's interesting. He actually asked Mr. Ellis about how much the job pays. Usually in a first interview, you might want to stay away from asking how much the job pays because you want to show that you're interested in the job, that you're interested in working for their company. You don't want to come off as a person who's only interested in money. That's usually a second interview. But come back for a second interview, you start asking about money, benefits, and stuff like that. Okay, so where were we? I just got called away from a meeting, and now I'm back. All right. So yes, June asked Mr. Elliott. June asked Mr. Ellis about how much the job pays. Okay, so yeah, so you probably want to try to stay away from that question, during your first interview, just so you don't seem mean. Okay, let's go to the next one, the last one. June told Mr. Ellis what day he could start, that he'd really like the job. What did June tell Mr. Ellis? Did you tell him that what day he would start, that he'd really like the job? June said, I'd really like the job. Okay. All right. Mr. Ellis told June, he asked June if he could start next Monday. All right. So that's it for that activity. All right. Next comes another activity. Okay, Cornerstone friends. Sometimes I look really hard for songs that have to do with what lesson's about, and sometimes I just skip over the obvious ones. So let me know if you remember this one. I've been working on the railroad all the livelong day. I've been working on the railroad just to pass the time away. Can't you hear the whistle blowing? Rise up so early in the morning. Can't you hear the captain shouting? Dinah, won't you blow your horn? Dinah, won't you blow? Dinah, won't you blow your horn? Dinah, won't you blow? Dinah, won't you blow? Dinah, won't you blow your horn? Someone's in the kitchen with Dinah. Someone's in the kitchen, I know. Someone's in the kitchen with Dinah, strumming on the old banjo, and fiddly-I-O, fiddly-I-O, strumming on the old banjo.